It's 1960 or somewhere around there. Man is landing on the moon, right? Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is out, and the world is changing. And tired archaeologist Indiana Jones just doesn't feel like he has a place in it anymore. And he is just about retired from his job teaching, and he just does not feel like he can connect with the youth. When suddenly a stranger comes in out of his life, asking about one half of a strange dial of destiny that's reported to have maybe even powers to move mountains and transport man through time. And Indy has to decide whether or not he'll go on one last ride, one last hurrah in his final adventure in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It is a James Mangold film, just came out a couple weeks ago now. Andy, what do you think?
It was okay. There were, it's a mixed bag. Like a lot of these,
yeah.
even these movies, even these movies that flop are generally a mixed bag. Like there's things that work, there's good things in them, and then there's a lot that doesn't. A lot of times, and that's how this is. I think the characters are the strongest part. I like it. Harrison Ford is always good, and he's as good as he can be as Indy. You got Mads Mikkelsen as the villain who was born to play every villain ever. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is I like her character. She's nice and spunky. It has a lot of personality to the franchise. Some people don't really like her character. I thought she was fine, but the characters I think are the strongest part. The plot is just not super interesting. It takes forever to get going. There's prolonged action sequences that you're just like looking at your watch trying to get through. I did like the second half of this better than the first half. It just takes kind of forever to get going.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, I want to go see Indiana Jones, but I feel like I got burned by Crystal Skull. That's what I've heard people say, right? Like, I was excited about Crystal Skull, and then it came out and just didn't do it. And that was supposed to be the last one. Crystal Skull was supposed to be it 15 years ago. Not so now, right? And I feel like I can confidently say I like this one more than Crystal Skull. Like, although Spielberg is not returning to do this feature, it does feel like it ties more into like the traditional elements that indie fans seem to like, things like in Raiders and Last Crusade, bit of like Christian imagery, right, in its artifacts, and you got the Nazis back. You even got a bit of at least visual time travel in an opening flashback scene when we get a young Indy, right? They do the deep fake thing. What do you how do you think about that, Andy? Did you go for it? Because I was really middling on it.
So that's how I felt. It's fine. That technology is looking better, but to me, it still just looks. It still doesn't look real. It looks like a video game cutscene. It takes me out of it. I mean, if you don't watch a lot of movies, it's probably amazing. The theater I went to, the screen I went to was an older crowd, which is something we'll talk about more later. And they were amazed. They were like gasps when they revealed Indiana Jones, even though we had seen that in the trailer.
Oh my god!
But
Sorry,
it's done as well as it can be. To me, it's just not convincing. Like, I would rather them just recast it as someone young. Because the other thing is, like, you can't. His voice still sounds like the voice of an 80-year-old man.
yeah, does feel like a distinct lack of confidence in like the ability of a younger, newer actor to pick up the mantle. I said before, and I'll say it again. They should just grabbed Alden Ehrenreich. They shouldn't use Alden Ehrenreich. I know they shouldn't, but I think what's here is effective, right? Like the Nazi stuff works. Everybody loves swinging on Nazis. Like that feels very big. I know they were in Crystal Skull as well, kinda, but I think that's effective. More importantly, like we need to talk about the artifacts, right? Like the dial. The dial of destiny, I think, is solid. Like for what it needs to be. Like it's not quite as exciting as like the Ark of nothing will ever be as exciting as the Ark of the Covenant in these movies. Like that's the best one. It's got the best theme. But the dial, like, I think is an effective plot device if you don't look at it too harshly. Because if you're too critical, you're not gonna think. I don't think you're gonna think Indiana Jones is particularly heat. But like, if you squint your eyes and you kind of look at it, or I don't know, you eat your popcorn and you don't pay attention, like overall the plot works fine. Your dial's split into two parts. We got to get the one part, and we got to get over here and get the other part before these other guys get it. They got it before we, like, it just feels a little plain. Satisfyingly though, I think in its third act takes a turn and actually goes somewhere I didn't expect. It was nice. It was a nice surprise to be like, oh, I don't know where Indiana Jones is headed.
Yeah, we did have some predictions beforehand, which did not come to pass. Some did, but some did not come to pass. They mostly had to do with ridiculous time travel things.
Thank God those didn't come to pass, because it would have been a worse movie for it.
Like Indiana Jones fighting himself, or Indiana Jones
old Indy fighting
time.
young Indy. God, yeah, that would have
right.
been. Yeah.
Or Indiana Jones through time. So we didn't do any of that. To me, the plot is just really bland more than anything. Even Crystal Skull is more intriguing. I think where Crystal Skull goes wrong is it really doesn't stick the landing at all, and it has a lot of really bad CGI. But the initial mystery is more intriguing. And the thing about this, it's not that it was bad. It was just uninteresting. I was just so bored. And like I didn't get into the myth of the artifact, the dial. Consequently, I ended up watching both Crystal Skull and Last Crusade after seeing this. And Last Crusade probably goes the heaviest on the lore. It goes so heavy on the Grail lore. It makes you think that, like, I'm going to go out and find that thing. That thing is real. And the dial, it just didn't intrigue me in the same way. And I've said this before, that it's a very hard thing to do, to come up with some sort of mysterious artifact that it really makes people lean in.
Yeah, Crystal Skull had that problem. Like, it wasn't that interesting. It was like a weird alien skull thing that looked plastic, and nobody really went for it. Like, even the chakra stones in Indy 2, Temple of Doom, like, I think worked out. But regardless, the action in this movie, I think, is important to talk about, of course. I do think it's better than Crystal Skull, because the CGI is a little more believable, but like tragically there's a serious lack of practical effects, not only for budgetary reasons but also because Harrison Ford's like 80 years old. Like, I don't expect to actually see him get up on a horse. So what you're going to get is a whole lot of like green screen stuff, studio footage that they, dress up and add some motion blur to and slap Indiana Jones's face on, and there you go. You got your scene. It doesn't work that good. It works fine, but like combine that with like troubling pacing in the script. They've got a chase scene in Act 2 where two characters are arguing across vehicles, and it's miserable.
It just goes on forever.
It's like I feel like I should get up and go to the bathroom. Yeah, like this is not work.
There's two chase scenes that just go on forever. They're way too long, and the whole time I was thinking, and they're fine, they're not bad, but I was also thinking, Mission Impossible is going to blow this out of the water in a week.
Yeah.
I know it. I did want to mention, I was saying that I saw it with a little bit older crowd. This movie has primarily attracted the like over 40, over 50 crowd, distinct lack of younger people. And everyone in my theater loved it, but it also felt like they hadn't seen a movie since Crystal Skull. because they were cheering at a lot of things during the action scenes, and like I said, when Indy's hood gets pulled off, and it was like they hadn't seen a movie in just quite some time. And I was like, it's great that you're attracting the older crowd, because that is difficult in its own right, but you're not going to make your money back on a $300 million movie if it's not a 4-quadrant film that gets everyone and their family and their kids and their mother in to see it.
Yeah, the budget here just does not add up, because you would think for $300 million it's going to be like a grand event, right? Like, you're going to see incredible things on screen, and like you kind of don't. And it's like, where did the money go? I think it went to reshoots. There's a couple of like basic editing errors in the movie. Like, my dad, who is not a big like film critic by any means, like was watching it with me in theaters, and he like leaned over and nudged me. He's like, "Hey, what? Did that thing break in an earlier scene?" And I was like, "Yeah, shut up. Just ignore it. don't think about it too hard, right? Like, hold on. This doesn't make sense." And it's like, totally. Like, you look too hard at it, it falls apart. But for an adventure that moves, I think it's fine, albeit a little long. I do want to mention the score from
John Williams.
Last one, right? Like, it's as far as I know, he's retiring after this one.
It didn't really stand out that much to me. You just hear a lot of the familiar Indiana Jones cues, but like I really like the entire score to Crystal Skull. That one actually might be my favorite from beginning to end. Like as opposed, like I like a lot of the tracks on the other ones or I like more famous, but I love all of Crystal Skull. And on this, there was nothing special. Like, I don't know what the theme of like the Dial of Destiny is, Whereas like I could sing you the theme to the Grail and the Ark and
Yes, I can
Crystal
hum the Ark
Skull.
theme. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I felt like Williams seemed tired, and like I don't put it past him, right? I bet he doesn't even compose most of his stuff anymore. He's probably got ghost composers or whatever. But it is a lot of the old themes, which all sound great. No complaints. Like they're all good stuff. But like I'm reminded of Temple is my favorite one, I think. And Temple has a theme for like every character. Short Round's got a theme. Willie's got a theme. Indy's got a theme. Kali's got a theme, and they like weave them in between, like in scenes. It'll cut from one to the other. Like the way Williams would just go out of his way to jump through flaming hoops. Like and this one, I feel the energy of that because it uses a lot of that old music, but. He's retiring, and God bless him.
Sing the Crystal Skull or sing the Dial of Destiny theme.
You
can.
Hum
You
the Dial
can.
of Destiny theme for us. No, I sure can't. I absolutely can't. It's fine. Performances, fine all around. Few complaints. Love Mads Mikkelsen as a villain. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is pretty good, albeit her character is a little overwritten, I think. Could have simplified. Any other thoughts on this one, Andy? I feel like I should have more to say, but what else is there to say?
I did want to talk about her because what I'm glad they didn't do, I was worried they would do this very strong like feminist thing, which they didn't. But they also make her kind of an anti-hero where like we meet her and she is she's like running from people and she has a gambling problem and she owes a lot of people money and she like many kind of people in the Indiana Jones films, she's an opportunist and she'll kind of change allegiances based on the best deal. And that's actually a common character in all of the Indiana Jones films. So she kind of embodies that, but is also someone who's kind of closer to him than in some previous films.
Yeah, which I think was good, right? Like you don't quite want the mutt set up from Crystal Skull where it's like, I'm your kid and you're dad now. Like that doesn't quite get you over. It worked once. I think if they had done the same thing, it wouldn't have. She serves a fine role, I think, for what she needs to do. It has pretty good energy. I don't understand how that woman has been functionally nothing since Fleabag, although she was the voice of one of the droids in Solo. Either way, overall, Indiana Jones 5, a fine movie, I suppose. You ready for recommendations, Andy?
I am.
Andy, would you recommend Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
I think your enjoyment of this will depend on your relationship to Harrison Ford and the Indiana Jones franchise. Because I've heard people like tearing up, people that saw Raiders of the Lost Ark when they were 10, seeing him still back on the screen, they're brought to tears and they're happy to be back in this world with this character. For me, like I would say kind of save it for streaming. There's nothing really big that happens on screen that justifies like the huge big theatrical experience. I saw it in IMAX, and it was, again, I was asking, where's this $300 million going to? Because I don't see it on screen at all. So I would say save it for streaming unless you're like a huge fan.
I think I'm in the same boat. I think Indiana Jones 5, like I said, I think I like it more than Crystal Skull personally. But I don't know if it's better. I just think I prefer it. I think it's got a little bit more something to it that I like. Je ne sais quoi, as they say. You could absolutely wait for this to show up on Disney Plus in like 90 days. Like there's no reason you need to go see this at the theater. You do not need to spend money on popcorn. Like you could totally wait, watch this at home. Then you might want to roll back and watch another one. Like I think it scratches the itch for an Indiana Jones movie, but frankly, I don't think anybody was itching for one anyway. And in that way, that's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. With that,
the franchise belongs in a museum.
It sure does. Next up, we need to talk about some things that are coming out soon. Andy, you want to intro this for us?
It's time for the trailer park.